Well, I'm in the mood to do some kind of reading thing. Here's something which came to mind earlier tonight, and I'm going to read a larger part than I had originally intended because fuck it. Yeah, it's special delivery. Ding dong. Who could it be? Oh, look, it's Herodotus. Herodotus is calling. The customs which I know the Persians to observe are the following. They have no images of the gods, no temples nor altars, and consider the use of them a sign of folly. This comes, I think, from their not believing the gods to have the same nature with men as the Greeks imagine. Their wont, however, is to ascend the summits of the loftiest mountains, and there to offer sacrifice to Zeus, which is the name they give to the whole circuit of the firmament. They likewise offer to the sun and moon, and to the earth, to the fire, to water, and to the winds. These are the only gods whose worship have come down to them from ancient times. At a later period, they began the worship of Urania, which they borrowed from the Arabians and Assyrians. Myleta is the name by which the Assyrians know this goddess, whom the Arabians called Alita, and the Persians Mitra. So Urania and Mitra. Interesting. That was from part 131, I guess you'd call it chapter 131 of book 1. So 132, from book 1. To these gods the Persians offer sacrifice in the following manner. They raise no altar, light no fire, pour no libations. There is no sound of the flute, no putting on of chaplets, no consecrated barley cake. But the man who wishes to sacrifice brings his victim to a spot of ground which is pure from pollution, and there calls upon the name of the god to whom he intends to offer. It is usual to have the turban encircled with a wreath, most commonly of myrtle. The sacrificer is not allowed to pray for blessing on himself alone, but he prays for the welfare of the king and of the whole Persian people, among whom he is of necessity included. He cuts the victim to pieces, having boiled the flesh, and he lays it out upon the tenderest pieces of vegetation he can find. Of herbage, it says here. Sorry, vegetation. Vegetable matter. Trefoil especially. When all is ready, one of the magi comes forward and chants a hymn, which they say recounts the origins of their gods. It is not lawful to offer sacrifice unless there is a magus present. After waiting a short time, the sacrificer carries the flesh of the victim away with him, and makes whatever use of it he may please. Imagine he could probably eat it if he wished. Of all the days in the year, chapter or book or part 133, of all the days in the year, the one which they celebrate most is their birthday. It is customary to have the board furnished on that day with an ampler supply than common. The richer Persians cause an ox, a horse, a camel, and an ass to be baked whole, and so served upon to them, or up to them. The poorer classes use instead the smaller kinds of cattle. They eat little solid food, but abundance of dessert, which is set on a table a few dishes at a time. This it is which makes them say that the Greeks, when they eat, leave off hungry, having nothing worth mention served up to them after the meats, whereas if they had more put before them, they would not stop eating. They are very fond of wine and drink it in great quantities. To vomit or obey natural calls in the presence of another is forbidden among them. Such are their customs on these matters. It is also their general practice to deliberate upon affairs of weight when they are drunk, and then on the morrow when they are sober. The decision to which they came the night before is put before them by the master of the house in which it was made, and if it is then approved of, they act on it, and if not, they set it aside. Sometimes, however, they are sober at their first deliberation, but in this case they always reconsider the matter under the influence of wine. 134. When they meet each other on the streets, you may know if the persons meeting are of equal rank by the following token. If they are, instead of speaking, they kiss each other on the lips. In the case where one is a little inferior to the other, the kiss is given on the cheek. Where the difference of rank is great, the inferior prostrates himself upon the ground. Of nations, they honor most their nearest neighbors, whom they esteem next to themselves. Those who live beyond these they honor in the second degree, and so with the remainder. The further they are removed, the less the esteem which they hold them. The reason is that they look upon themselves with as vastly or greatly superior in all respects to the rest of mankind, regarding others as approaching to excellence in proportion as they dwell nearer unto them. Whence it comes to pass that those who are the farthest off must be the most degraded of all mankind. Under the dominion of the Medes, the several nations of the empire exercised authority over each other in this order. The Medes were lords over all, and governed the nations upon their borders, who in their turn governed the nations beyond, and who likewise bore rule over the nations which joined on them. And this is the order which the Persians also followed in their distribution of honor, for that people, like the Medes, had a progressive scale of administration and government. There is no nation in 135 which so readily adopts foreign customs as the Persians. Thus they have taken to the dress of the Medes, considering it superior to their own, and in war they wear the Egyptian breastplate. As soon as they hear of any luxury, they instantly make it their own. Hence, among other novelties, they have learned unnatural lust from the Greeks. Each of them has several wives, and still a larger number of concubines,